So yeah, bragging on Jesus. Okay, things I'm excited about. Uh, like I said, I do have some trimming to do on this. Okay. Okay, one thing I'm excited about is you look on the left-hand side, you see it's a weird-looking name, Imushi.
Yeah.
See that? Okay, he is a dear friend of mine, and he's a pastor in town of a Korean church. We have about 3,000 Korean people. They're from Thailand area, and there's a Korean community up in Minneapolis as well, over in several places, Des Moines, Iowa. And he is a really good friend. And actually, Lisa, one of my Timothys, who is, she talked to him because she's been connected with some of the Korean people in his church through outreach. She knows some of them. And she talked to him and asked him, would he be interested in being trained? And so him and I are really good friends, and he didn't exactly understand what she was talking about. And so he asked me about it, and I was like, oh, yeah. And so I told him, and anyway, I started meeting with him. I've trained him in field 1, and I'm going to start on field 3. He's already regularly sharing the gospel. He's going and doing it.
Nice.
And the cool thing, kind of the backstory of this church. So I'm meeting with him, I'm training him, and we're looking to possibly do a training with his church. And so, but I told him I want to train him first so that when we do that, he could train.
Yeah.
With me.
Good. Smart.
Yeah. So the cool thing about him and how that church started, this is just a neat thing for me. This is, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago. I was doing House of Peace searches before I knew anything about T4T. For years, we would go around knocking on doors, praying for people and sharing the gospel. And I went and I met him knocking on a door. And there was before I met him, the week before in his apartment complex, there was a Buddhist lady who, she didn't speak any English. Then I kind of gave her the motions, can I pray for you? And she invited me in, and there was a shrine of Buddha. And she had me stand in front of the Buddha shrine, and she was like, hey, you can pray. She didn't understand anything I would say at all. And I told her, I said, well, I don't pray to Buddha. I'm going to pray to Jesus, but I'll pray for you. And I prayed for her that God would send somebody to share the gospel with her. And so the next week, I meet Imushi knocking on his door, and he was so excited. He just moved to our city, and he was already a believer. And he was so excited. He's like, you're doing what I used to do in Thailand. I was like, that's awesome. He's like, I want to go with you. I said, you know what? Right underneath you, there's a Buddhist lady. And he went down and shared the gospel with her. And so he started, there were a few Korean people who started coming to our church on Sunday mornings. And, but some of them, they had a hard time with the language, understanding what was going on. And he was like, I don't know what I should do. I was like, you know what? Why don't you get them together in your house and just pray together? Just have a prayer meeting. And he did that. A month later, he contacted me. He's like, there's 40 of us meeting. I was like, wow, really? And they just gather. That people group, they're so communal. I mean, they'll call their relatives and they'll all show up. And so 40 of them gathered, and it became a new church. They started a church, and I was like, awesome. That was about 5 or 6 years ago. So we're good friends. And he kind of does his own thing. It's his own church,
Yeah.
We're just friends, and I just encourage him. So I think it's kind of cool if it ends up coming around full circle where I get to train him in this and see movements happen through that. That would just be a God thing.
Yeah. Very awesome.
I should say this too, another part of that testimony. That when around the time I met him, I think it was the month of January back in that year. I was desperate. I just had this desperate burden to lead somebody to Jesus. I was like, God, I have to see somebody, just one person saved at least. So I fasted every other day for the month of January that year. And I went out 5 times a week to share the gospel. I'm like, I just want one person that's fruit that remains. And I remember I went the whole month, and some awesome stuff happened, but nobody really that I saw got saved and continued on. And I was like, well, whatever, I trust you with it. Well, then in hindsight, I look back a few months later, and it was around that time when I was going out, that's when I met Imushi. And I was like, wow, God, I didn't realize it. I thought, man, bummer, my prayer didn't get answered. But instead of one person, he birthed the whole church out of that. So I was like, awesome. So it's really cool.
That is very cool. That's very encouraging to me.
Yeah. He's at work when we don't even realize it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm encouraged about that. I'm also encouraged about, right underneath him, Cecile. She's really becoming a Timothy for me. She's part of the training church that I'm doing. And she is going for it. She's got a church start at the place that she works. She is starting another one in June, early June. She'll be starting another church. And then she has another lady. This is kind of cool. That lady, Deborah, who she's training. That lady, we have it's called community counseling in our city. And it's not Christian, but it's just a community counseling center. One of the counselors called me up and she says, hey, we're running into people that I know what they need is faith. And they just need a church, a community around them. So she goes, if I have people that are in that situation, could I recommend them to you and you go visit them? I was like, absolutely. Give me as many as you want. Those are potential houses of peace, I'm thinking. And so, anyway, Deborah was one of those. And I went with Cecile. We visited her, and Cecile's been meeting with her ever since. So doing just like stories of hope type stuff.
Nice.
Yeah. So I'm encouraged about that. Another thing, I'm finishing up that training church. We have like 2 more meetings left, 2 more weeks, and then it'll be over. I've been encouraged with it, actually. I actually, there's kind of that feeling, especially the last month or so, like it's just really getting good. And kind of, that feeling you don't want it to end almost. It's just starting to get good. Yeah. But I'm encouraged because I feel like people have definitely learned, and I have, people who are doing it are being active and making disciples. And then, I have, at least a couple people that are actively going for churches and stuff like that too.
Cool.
So that's been a good experiment doing that. So I guess that's my main stuff, I'd say right now, that I'm excited about.
All right. Is Lisa still doing okay?
Yeah, she's doing amazing. Okay. She's totally a Timothy. She just has an unusual grace for this. I mean, she's got 2 young kids, but she puts in a ton of hours in the just discipling people, doing House of Peace searches, taking others and training them in House of Peace searches. Super, super active. I mean, this is like her calling, She feels passionate about it. So she's doing phenomenal. And then her and her husband really helps her out a lot with it too. They're a great team. They work together really well.
Cool.
Yeah.